I never imagined my marriage would fall apart the way it did. But looking back now, with the kind of clarity only hindsight offers, I can see the signs were always there. Tiny cracks in the foundation I chose to ignore, convincing myself that everything was fine, that we were fine. Zachary and I had been married for 4 years. On the outside, our life seemed steady. A small, cozy home with a well-worn couch and mismatched coffee mugs. 2 steady jobs. A predictable rhythm that provided security, even as spontaneity was scarce. We weren't one of those picture-perfect couples you scroll past online. But I believe we had something solid, something real. Beneath that surface, though, an unspoken tension simmered, one I didn't fully recognize until everything collapsed. And it all started, or perhaps the seeds were planted much earlier, with Austin. Austin had been my friend since college. Over a decade of shared history. All-nighters during finals, shoulders to cry on after breakups, laughing until our sides hurt over the dumbest inside jokes. Yes, there had been a brief romantic moment years ago, a fleeting kiss, a short-lived fling that fizzled as quickly as it began. It never meant anything serious, and in my mind, it had long since been buried under years of friendship. Austin was a constant, a grounding presence, familiar, reliable, harmless. To Zachary, though, he was a different story, a threat. At first, Zachary never voiced real concerns. He was polite when Austin's name came up, even friendly on the rare occasions they met. But over time, I noticed subtle changes. The shift in his expression when Austin was mentioned. The slight clench of his jaw when I laughed at one of Austin's texts. The quiet stillness that would settle over him whenever I reminisced about college. I brushed it off, telling myself Zachary was being irrational, insecure. I was married to him, not Austin. I dismissed his feelings as jealousy he would eventually outgrow, but I never truly listened. The breaking point came when Austin invited me on a trip to Myrtle Beach. It wasn't some secret rendezvous, just a group of college friends reuniting for a nostalgic weekend of sun, drinks, and shared memories. I was excited, craving a break from the monotony of daily life. I thought it would be harmless. When I mentioned it to Zachary, I expected a shrug or a hesitant nod. What I got instead was ice cold. "You're not going," he said, his voice flat, but edged with a steel that made me pause. I laughed, thinking he was joking, but the seriousness in his eyes stopped me. He explained himself. He didn't trust Austin's intentions. The history between us made him uncomfortable, and our friendship blurred lines he wasn't willing to tolerate any longer. He said he had tolerated it for years, but this trip crossed a boundary he could no longer ignore. I was furious. Who was he to dictate what I could or couldn't do? Independence had always been my pride. His reaction felt controlling, possessive. I argued, insisting the trip was innocent, that I deserved a break, that he was overreacting. Then came the ultimatum. If I went on this trip, I shouldn't expect to come back to the same marriage. I wish I had paused and truly paused and considered his words. But instead, I saw it as a challenge, a line in the sand I was determined to cross. I packed that night, kissed him goodbye with stubborn defiance, and drove to Myrtle Beach. The trip began just as I imagined. Laughter echoing across the beach, familiar faces, clinking glasses, catching up like no time had passed. Austin and I slipped easily back into our old rhythm, teasing, joking, confiding in one another as if nothing had changed. But somewhere between sunsets and too many cocktails, things shifted. One night, we found ourselves alone on the balcony, the others inside laughing over a drinking game. Moonlight shimmered across the waves below as we talked about the past, about how things might have been different. His eyes lingered a little longer than they used to. When our hands brushed, I didn't pull away. He leaned in, not exactly for a kiss, but something in between, and for a moment I froze. I didn't kiss him, but I didn't stop it fast enough either. I told myself it was nothing, just a drunken moment wrapped in nostalgia. My heart knew better. The next day, still hazy, I made another mistake. Austin and I posed for a photo on the beach, me in a bikini, him with his arm casually around my waist, our smiles wide and carefree. I posted it on Instagram with a thoughtless caption, "Living my best life, I didn't think of Zachary. Didn't consider how that image would hit him like a gut punch. I didn't think at all. When I returned home, the silence was deafening. Zachary's car was there, but not him. The closet was half empty. His keys were gone. Most of his things had vanished. I called in a panic. When he finally answered, his voice was flat, almost void of emotion. "I'm done, Paisley," he said. "I saw the picture. I warned you." I stumbled over excuses. Said it wasn't what it looked like, that nothing happened. But you chose him. You humiliated me. You made a mockery of us. And then he hung up. I stood frozen, staring at my phone as the wave it all crashed down like a tidal wave. The fallout was immediate and relentless. Friends, family, acquaintances, all texting, commenting, judging. Did you really think that was okay? That photo was beyond disrespectful. How could you do that to Zach? I deleted the post, but it was too late. The damage was done. Whatever spark had flickered on that balcony with Austin had vanished. There was no grand affair, no stolen romance, just blurred lines and a lifetime of regret. When Zachary returned weeks later, it wasn't to reconcile, but to close a chapter. He looked different, tired, older. His voice cracked as he spoke. "I trusted you," he said. "I told you how I felt, and you didn't care. I wasn't asking you to give up your friends. I asked for respect, for boundaries, and you threw that away. I tried to apologize, tried to explain that I hadn't meant to hurt him, but he wasn't listening. He walked out and didn't come back. In the months that followed, I was left alone with my guilt, my thoughts, and the echo of every decision that brought me here. I replayed every moment. Every time I dismissed his concerns, every time I chose defiance over empathy, I thought I was fighting for freedom. In reality, I was destroying the one person who loved me most. Zachary started therapy. I heard through mutual friends. It helped him rebuild. He filed for separation. I didn't contest it. How could I? I had broken something sacred, something irreparable. Looking back, I see it all clearly. It wasn't just a photo or a trip. It was every time I didn't listen, every chance I had to choose my marriage and didn't. Austin faded back into the background. We don't talk anymore. There was no happily ever after, only a moment that cost me everything. Zachary is gone, and I am left with a painful, humbling truth. Love isn't about pride or defiance. It's about respect, boundaries, and trust. And I lost sight of that.